Good morning, and for today's lesson we're going to be doing stopping and going, and where it to be used and how to use it. So, but first off, let's review our points of sale so that we can get on a warm-up base. So, we have our wind coming down from here, and we will just name them off, alright? So the first one here, any guesses as to what that is? As we've reviewed in the past.
That's irons.
That's irons, yes. The no-go zone, right? So that's the no-go zone. You get no wind. Next one.
Close reach or close haul, I think.
You're right about the close part. This is close haul, the next one. The farthest you can be heading up. Close haul. Next one. You just said it.
Close reach.
Close reach, yeah. Good. So that's close reach. And the next one?
That is beam reach.
Beam reach, yep, you're right. That is beam reach. Great. And second last one here?
Boom reach.
No. Close. Broad reach.
Broad
reach.
Broad reach.
Coming away from the wind.
Yeah.
And then the final one, opposite of irons, that's run. Good.
Yes.
So you're on a great path of the review.
Yeah.
Alright, so now we know our points of sale here. And we'll be going over our main part of the lesson. So, stopping, stop, and go. So, main parts to go over in stop and go are that, how do we stop and go, and where would it be useful? So how do you think we would stop our boat?
I would let out the sail.
Let out the sails would be one.
So
that would be sheeting out.
Sheet out.
So
yeah.
Put that on your ways. Sheeting out sails. Can you think of another one?
Okay, let's see. Sheeting out sails. Another one would be...
It's one of the points of sales, remember? The no...
It would be irons.
Yeah, the no goes in.
Irons.
Exactly. Irons. Now, why do you think we'd go into irons to stop the boat?
Well, irons, basically, you're not perpendicular to the wind.
Yeah, you don't get any wind.
So you won't get any wind.
Your sails won't be full
yeah.
there, so you have no wind. And then, that basically is two main reasons of ways to stop. Yeah, those are basically main ways of stopping a boat.
Yes.
And there are ways to go. What do you think ways to go
Well,
would be?
sheet in, obviously.
Sheeting in.
Yeah.
So the complete opposite of sheeting out. Sheeting in sails.
Yeah, there's more ways to go.
Alright, and then what do you think?
Close reach.
Another one would be getting out of irons, like what you said, close reach, close haul. Getting out of irons. Now there's different ways of getting out of irons that we can do. And I will talk about that in the next part of my lesson. So now that we have these, we know our ways to stop. I'm going to go over our next part. So, in the next part, we have going. So like you said, getting back away from irons and into close haul, close reach. But ways we can do that is by moving our tiller back and forth. By sculling the tiller.
Because that helps to position you.
That helps to move your boat because in irons you have no wind,
yes,
no momentum,
yes,
right?
Yes, yes.
So you need to push the boat.
Right.
And we know our tiller, how to move that, right? So just imagine the boat, and here's your tiller, right, and your rudder. And all you're doing is moving it back and forth, and that'll eventually move your boat into the direction that you want to go fill your sails up. And then you'll be able to go. Questions?
So by sculling the tiller, does that act like sort of a kind of a motor?
Kind of, yes. And kind of like a motor moves the water, right? And then moves you. That would be sculling the tiller as one of the ways to get back and going. Now, where would you find this most useful? Stopping and going.
Well, which one? Stopping or going?
The whole in general. Stop and go. Where would you find it the most useful?
Well, when you're coming out and leaving and entering the harbor.
That is a good example, yes.
Yeah, yeah. When you have to leave the harbor, that's when you're starting to go, and when you're entering the harbor, you have to slow it down. So.
In case you hit like a boat, you need to immediately stop.
Yes.
But can you think of other reasons involving like people in your boat?
I guess if a person goes overboard,
yeah, that would be
and you've got to stop
one,
suddenly to help
and then
deal with that situation.
That would be definitely one. So write this. So we have man overboard. That's a great one. What other spots or times where would you use this? Just think of like, say, hazards to do with weather or maybe the health of.
So if you have to stop suddenly for an oncoming boat?
Yeah, that would be a good one. And you have no other means to stop, right? Stopping for
To avoid.
what's ahead.
Right.
To avoid collision, right? To avoid getting hit. That's definitely one.
And I guess also if there's bad weather.
That would be a good one too. Bad weather and whatnot. For sure. And now we're gonna use this model sailboat. So imagine what I first drew at that point. I had the points of sail, right? So the wind's coming from here, right? So, since we're stopping, we know a great point of sail stop would be irons. So say the wind's coming from me, what would irons be? Use this boat to, if I'm here, okay,
That's
say
iron.
that the wind's coming from here. That's irons, okay. So say you're going, where would you point your boat? What? Point it anywhere away from irons.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a great tool to help us understand our ways to go. Okay. Let's do our ways to stop again. So now in our final piece here, we're going to review what we've learned from today. Ways of stopping. Which ways did we learn today of stopping?
Irons, getting into irons.
Okay, so heading into irons, that's a great one. It involves the sails again, remember?
What's it?
Remember we talked about it earlier on, right? It's involved sheeting.
Sheeting out.
Sheeting out the sails to slow them down. Why would you sheet out a sail?
Because it's not catching wind then.
Yes, then it's not full of wind, not to go.
Moving the rudder.
So yeah, that was, remember, it started with
Sculling.
Sculling the rudder.
Sculling the rudder.
Next one.
To get out of irons.
Yes, getting out of irons.
Getting out of irons.
We did have a third one. It's the opposite of another one we just talked about in stopping.
Sheeting in.
Sheeting in.
Yeah.
And finally, where would this be useful? What we've talked about.
Well, if there's a man overboard,
Yeah, some man
emergency
overboard,
situation,
obviously. Emergency situation.
or if you have to stop suddenly
Yeah.
because if you're going to collision collide with something, or if the weather's bad.
A hazard ahead. Those are all great. Alright, so that sums up our on-land session for this morning, and we'll be doing this on our on-water session this afternoon.